もしやコスモでは。
Cosmo needs me free.
Cosmo AP ラグジュアリースポーツ。
It takes about an hour to totally clean one rotor housing. I'm not actually going to use these rotors when I put the engine back together, because these are early 13B rotors that only have a 9.2 to 1 compression. I'll be using a set of GSL-SE rotors, but since I have all the cleaning stuff out, I figure I might as well clean these things up while I have an enormous mess on my hands, instead of leaving them dirty and creating a second enormous mess later. Usually these things just pry right out. It gives me a little bit of trouble. Man, this engine must have been almost new, because look at that O-ring. Even the white paint is still on the spring. These oil O-rings and springs are already so clean that all they need is a quick rinsing. A few chunks of carbon though. Normally these things are just covered in carbon, but these hardly have any wear on them at all, so instead of spending hours scraping carbon out of these grooves, it's just going to take a quick bath in the parts washer. And these are so new that the anti-friction coating is still on the edges of the rotor. Now this is what rotors are supposed to look like, with a bright gold cadmium finish and anti-wear strips along the edges. I just finished parts washing this thing, so now I'm giving her the last rinse with brake cleaner. Too bad I'm not going to use these rotors, because these are awesome. I'm not using them because they're only 9.2 to 1 compression, and I have a set of GSL-SE rotors, which are, of course, 9.4 to 1 compression. These little Scotch-Brite discs work really well for cleaning irons. I just keep them lubricated with parts cleaner fluid, and they work really well. always have lots and lots of brake cleaner around. I buy it by the case. Normally, by the time engines are disassembled, these coolant seals are dry and they come completely apart when you separate the rotors and housings. But this engine is so new that this peels right out, and I can fold it. It doesn't even crack. Well, a little bit, but just at the joint. I mean, that's bloody unheard of. It's still stretchy. The intercoolant O-rings are just basically brand new. I mean, you could not do this with an old O-ring. It would just snap to pieces, but I can stretch this to twice its length. This engine has had no runtime on it at all. You have to be very careful when doing this, because these things are sharp and they'll cut you open faster than you can even think. They're like little razor blades. And these ones are especially new, so they're especially sharp. There's a little more carbon on this one than the last one, but it's nothing that a quick scraping with a razor blade won't cure. Just on the face, not a big deal. I don't worry too much about the carbon in the bowl. It's really hard to clean out, and it's just going to accumulate fast anyway once the engine runs. And most of it's coming out just with a quick brushing. I'm not sure I'm actually going to use these side seal springs because they think new ones come in the rebuild kit, but it makes sense to give them a cleaning anyway. This is the old school oil pressure regulator, which can be disassembled and shimmed for higher pressures. I don't normally run eccentric shafts through the parts cleaner because the parts cleaner fluid strips the protective oil layer off the inside and outside of the shaft, and I don't want them to rust. About the only time I use the parts cleaner on them is if the engine had an oil-related failure and I expect some debris inside the shaft. Otherwise, I just wipe them down with a clean cloth and blow the internal passages out with the air compressor and then put them in a sealed bag. And the last part of the engine block that I need to clean is this front cover. This gasket seems to be thoroughly stuck on with gasket sealer. After this, it's just the tension bolts, and then all the major engine block components are clean. Front cover gaskets, for some reason, are always a major struggle. People must use gasket glue or something on them. Pain in the ass. Anyone assembling engines, don't do this. Just put silicone on it. I had no idea that early 13Bs had a gasket for the metering oil pump instead of the O-ring they used in later engines. The tension bolts each get a cleaning under the wire wheel. And then they all get put through the parts washer. I scraped like 6 tons of sludge out of the oil pan, and it's the last part that I'll have to put through the part washer in a while. The rest of the external engine components are going to be cleaned as needed. Oh, that is nasty. This, people, is why oil changes are important. And this represents about 12 to 14 hours worth of cleaning. It actually takes about 2 to 3 times the amount of time to clean the crap than it does to actually assemble the engine. Now that this pleasantness is done, I'm hardly even using any of these parts. Mostly the housings and a few other miscellaneous parts. The rest of it comes from a donor GSL-SE engine. Now that I'm done cleaning the engine stuff, I'm going to take a bit of a break and maybe do a little bit of minor body work.